Welcome back to the Transportation Sales Tax Program. We're also known as RoadWise. We're going to talk today with a gentleman who's responsible for developing plans for various projects. Many of them are projects that are a part of our RoadWise program here, the Transportation Sales Tax Program, for some of you who are familiar with that. This gentleman's company draws up these plans, and then there are others who follow them in making sure that those roads are built to T, just as they should be. I'd like to welcome to our program Jim Fisher. Known him for a little while, and he's with a company called Trans Systems. And you do, is that all you do though, is plans? Or not like is that all, but are you involved in other kinds of things? Do you actually get into contracting for building roads, for example, or do you just work as a partner with those?
We don't build them. Sometimes we're in a position where we monitor the construction, as you said, to make sure that they're built according to plans and specifications. But everything from the preliminary studies, traffic studies, environmental studies, through design, developing the plans, and then monitoring construction. When
we see roads that have been built or in the process of being built in the community, especially the Transportation Sales Tax Project, because that's what we're working on right now, or many of the roads are under the Transportation Sales Tax Program, do each one of those bridges or highways or widenings or intersections improvements, do they have a plan associated with them?
I would say that almost all of them do. There are varying degrees of complexity in plans depending on what you're doing. If you're just resurfacing a road, for example, putting an overlay, asphalt, new pavement surface on it, many times you won't necessarily have a plan, but you might have some specifications that govern the quality of the material and those sorts of things, which in a sense is kind of a plan. It's just not as detailed because it doesn't need to be.
I'm interested in that term that you just used, and that's specifications.
Yes.
And is that synonymous with plan, or is that something entirely different, or is that just a stage of a plan?
Well, it's part of the contract documents. Specifications basically go beyond what you see on the drawings to describe things like the level of workmanship and the types of materials and sources and methods that the materials will be tested under to make sure that they perform the way they're supposed to. So specifications are kind of the written detail behind what's going into the set of plans.
So you're not just laying out on a piece of large paper, I don't know the size, but just laying out the direction that the road will go, basic things like that. You're really going to the heart of that project.
Right. The plans themselves are not really sufficient detail. You see a storm sewer inlet, like a curb inlet, for example, and that's a structure. It has certain dimensions, and those sorts of things show up on the plans. The specifications cover the quality of the cement, the rock and the sand, and even the water quality that goes into mixing the materials and building that box. All of those things are kind of in the specifications.
Can a road or roadway, bridge be built without a set of plans like the kind that you produce, or maybe on a limited basis? You don't need all of those parts.
You really define, it depends on how things are contracted. For example, some things are maintenance operations. You may see state forces or even contract forces go out and do highway patching, things like that are really maintenance items. They may be done without most of that, but even then there are certain material designations that go into the materials that they're using, and that follows some specifications. So because we're investing public dollars, you got to have control over what's being put down.
Is there a lot of time spent in developing the types of plans we're talking about right now, plans and specifications?
There are, and probably more so than people realize, or much more time than people realize. Plans and specifications really have several different purposes. They're first and foremost, they're the designer's way of showing the client or the owner, if it's whether it's Charleston County, City of North Charleston, any number of clients, that we understand what they expressed to us, so that they can look at the plans and say, yes, this is the number of lanes that I wanted, and this is a feature that I wanted, but I don't want this, and we go through some review cycles for that. Another purpose of this is for permitting, and sometimes our projects have a footprint, they have an impact, and we have to demonstrate that we're either mitigating those impacts or we're not causing impacts. So there are permitting processes depending on the impact of the project that we have to go through. That's another purpose of the plans. And finally is to bid it, so that a contractor can get those plans in his hands, and he has an opportunity to put a price to it.
As you look back, and I know you're a very young man, but as you look back in time, what were we doing without these kinds of documents? Or was there ever a time when we didn't have a document like a plan to go by that led the contractor?
Well, you're right. I am way too young to remember that. I think if we look back through records of old plans, and even if for those of us who weren't around when they didn't do things by plans, you look back through records and you see that plans, engineering, surveying has been used for a long time to define where the project was going to go, where the road was going to be built. And a lot of civil engineering, which is kind of the basis of transportation engineering, comes out of the military. And for military conflicts over many years, from long before our time, there were plans and processes, and that's where a lot of our engineering background comes from.
And I imagine today that with building roads and highways and the like, that it must be awfully complicated, because there are so many demands that are made on you by the public. Those who are interested in maintaining trees and right-of-way acquisition, and then you have NEPA or national organizations that require that the town or the city or the community, the owner, come up with exactly what you're planning to do, and who is going to be harmed by that.
Well, it's an iterative, integrated process. I guess the best word would be interactive, because there's input that gives us the basis of design, and our design generates the need for more input. So it's a cycle, and we hope to minimize the number of cycles we go through, but sometimes it takes a few. And to get to something that both serves the need of the project and is acceptable to the public.
What I'm going to do now is take a break, and when we come back, I'd like Jim to show you what an actual plan looks like and what types of things are on a plan and why. And we're going to do that in just a moment, so please don't go away. We'll be right back to find out what a plan is made of.